Have you ever stopped to think about your worldview? Not just as a list of beliefs, but what if it was a tapestry? A huge, complex fabric, and every single one of us is just one thread. That's exactly what we're diving into today with the Arreqqana philosophy. It's this incredible worldview where absolutely everything, your personal life, science, the whole of society, is all part of one giant, interconnected, woven thing. And this idea right here, this is the heart of the whole thing. Every soul is a thread in the vast loom of creation. And it's not just some pretty poetry. It's literally the foundation for everything else. The core idea is that we're not just passengers living in the world. No, we are the weavers. We are actively creating the fabric of reality with every single thing we do, say, and even think. Okay, so if we're going to understand the whole tapestry, it makes sense that we've got to start with the single thread, right? We have to look at what it really means for one person, one life, to be a thread in this massive grand design. And that brings us to this concept, ki huya leja. It literally means the thread of life. And it's this core belief that you, personally, are an active creator. Think about that. Nothing you do happens in a vacuum. Every single choice you make, no matter how big or small, it's adding a new color, a new texture, a new bit of strength or weakness to the reality that we all live in. It's a massive amount of personal responsibility when you really think about it. So, okay, how does this actually play out in everyday life? Well, the goal is pretty simple. You want to keep your threads strong and vibrant. You want it to add to the beauty of the whole thing. So in practice, whenever you're faced with a decision, the question isn't just, is this right or wrong? It's more like, will this strengthen the loom? Will it bring us together? Or is this going to fray the fabric and weaken the connections between all of us? It makes morality something you can almost see, something really tangible. All right, so if your life is a thread, the next logical question is, how do you tend to it? How do you make sure it gets stronger and wiser and more beautiful as time goes on? And that's where we get into their principles for personal growth. First up is a concept called taharem. The best way to think about it is like a tree growing on a riverbank. The soul has to flow like that river. It needs to grow, change, adapt, reach for new things. That's the innovation part. But at the same time, the roots of that tree have to stay deeply anchored in the soil. And that soil is tradition, ancestry, and sacred vows. It's this beautiful, dynamic dance between moving forward and staying grounded. So you've got this constant balance, right? On one side, the soul must flow. You're absolutely encouraged to innovate and grow. But on the other, the roots must anchor. You have to honor your heritage. A great example of this is that even their most advanced scientists might start a major experiment with an ancient, traditional blessing. For them, cutting-edge progress and deep reverence aren't opposites. They go hand in hand. Now, when it comes to things like wisdom and good leadership, there's another really cool concept. It's called kivarara, which translates to the seeing heart. And this isn't just about being smart or having a high IQ. No, true sight, real wisdom comes from cultivating a very specific kind of inner balance. And that balance is made of three parts. First, you have Nikia, that's softness, compassion, empathy. Then you have Kasor, that's strength, decisiveness, the will to act. But the real magic, the key to it all, is the third part, Sijamara. That's the harmony, the perfect balance between the two. And get this, it's not something you're just born with. Leaders actively train this through things like meditation, intense debates, and even ritual duels. The point isn't to win, but to sharpen their judgment and find that perfect middle ground. Okay, so we've looked at the individual thread. Now let's zoom out a bit. How do all these individual threads come together? How do they weave into a strong, vibrant social fabric? Well, one of the key pillars of their society is something called Sajavariyan, devotion to the feminine flame. Now, this is fascinating. They see fire, which represents passion, creativity, transformation, as a feminine energy. But, and this is the crucial part, it has nothing to do with being a man or a woman. It's an energy that everyone has inside them, and it has to be nourished. That's why pretty much any major event you can think of, from a wedding to a huge political treaty, starts with a ceremony that honors fire. Just let this next one sink in for a second. Diversity is not only tolerated, it is sacred. This goes so much deeper than just putting up with differences. And that pillar is a concept called Korasimave, which means unity through sacred difference. Think back to our tapestry. What makes it beautiful? It's all the different colors, all the different textures of the threads. So for them, the goal isn't to be a melting pot where everyone becomes the same. No, The goal is to actively protect and celebrate what makes each region, each family, each language unique, because every single one of those differences is essential to the beauty of the whole. And this isn't just a nice idea either. It's literally written into their laws. Regional foods, local dialects, traditional clothing, they're all actively preserved by law. And check this out. When two people from different regions get married, neither one has to give up their traditions. Instead, their wedding ceremony is designed to combine and celebrate the customs of both families. It's pretty amazing.
Okay, so what about relationships on a more personal level? From a marriage all the way up to a political alliance, how do they stay strong? Well, they see every relationship as a kind of triad, a stable structure that's held up by three absolutely essential pillars.
And those three pillars are duty, pleasure, and love. So duty is about your shared responsibilities, the things you have to do together. Pleasure is about the joy, the fun, the celebration. And love, well, that's the deep bond, the loyalty. And the idea is that you need all three. If you neglect any one of them, the whole thing starts to wobble. It's a constant, active effort to keep them all in balance. All right, let's zoom out one last time. We've seen the individual, we've seen society. So how does this worldview shape their relationship with bigger things, like science and the natural world? Okay, this might be one of the most unique parts of the whole worldview. For them, science is basically a sacred ceremony. A new discovery isn't just a pile of data, it's seen as a gift, a message from the loom of creation itself. And the whole point of science is explicitly to heal and protect the world, never to exploit it. I mean, their labs actually have altars in them. And scientists are trained not just in their technical field, but in ritual too. And the final piece of the puzzle connects everything back to the planet itself. It's a concept they call the coastal heart. They believe the sea is literally the breath of the mother goddess, and that its tides are constantly teaching us this incredible lesson about giving and taking, about ebb and flow, and about how change is just a natural, necessary part of life. And again, this is not just a pretty metaphor. They take it literally. The coastal societies actually live by this rhythm. Major life events, I'm talking weddings, the swearing in of a new leader, even festivals, are all intentionally timed to coincide with the turning of the tides. It's a way of embedding their entire culture into the natural cycles of the earth. So when you step back and you look at all of these pieces together, the thread of the self, the fabric of society, the connection to science and the sea, you really start to see it, the final, beautiful pattern. See? It all comes full circle, right back to that first image of the tapestry. It starts with that single thread of your own life, tended with mindfulness and care. That thread is then woven together with others into a society that doesn't just tolerate difference, but sees it as sacred. And that whole fabric is connected to the cosmic rhythms of the universe. It's a truly, completely integrated way of looking at existence.
And that really leaves us with one final powerful question. Because at the end of the day, this entire worldview rests on the idea that every single one of us is a weaver, with both the power and the responsibility that comes with it. So the question it asks all of us is pretty simple, but also profound. If your life is a thread, what pattern are you weaving?